Welcome to the 4D Chess Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble, and today on the show, we look at the fake letter from the Wall Street Journal. I can prove to you that it is the absolute worst argument to think that Trump is in the Epstein list. Anybody that says it is top shelf retarded. I can prove it to you. We're going to break it down. Anybody that says it, just ask them a question, and their argument falls apart. We're going to look at Maria Salazar in the District of Florida, Florida's 27th district. And we're gonna look at some advanced political strategies. So some of you that are like, why is she doing the Dignity Act? Why is she calling for amnesty? I will prove to you that that is the right play politically. It is also sponsored by Trump, yet he's going to plausibly deny all of it. I can show it to you. It's the easiest tactic of all time. And we will look at NPR and the crazy person, the CEO, Catherine Maher, that is absolutely all over the place. We're going to look at that as well. I would have done a show yesterday, but I got stuck watching Days of Thunder. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble, and this is 4D Chess. Let's play politics on a Saturday morning. Welcome back to the show. Like I said, I was going to do a show yesterday, but I started watching Days of Thunder and just got stuck doing stuff around the house, and it was good. Good to see everybody. Got a lot of new followers on Twitter. Hopefully they're watching. You can follow us on X. We are 4D Chess. That's good news. So give us a follow there. We are also live streaming on YouTube and Rumble, so you can give us a follow there as well. And to my original listeners on Apple and Spotify, thank you again. Give us a comment, give us a review. Tell us what you like. What is going on out there in the world of politics? You're going to hear people say it's a distraction from the Epstein list. It's a distraction from the Epstein list. Trump is on the Epstein list because he redacted. First off, you're retarded if you think there's an Epstein list. Secondly, you're even more retarded if you think the Biden administration and or Department of Justice did not remove evidence or destroy evidence and very likely that works.
By saying that this is thank you so much, Sean. This is such an important issue, and I just want to start by saying that this is an issue that is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup.
That's a serious allegation. Now, some people are going to be, oh, he's just distracted from Epstein. Damn straight he is. Because you have to play the narrative game. And the narrative game means you've got to get the messaging out. If the Democrats are constantly pushing, what's crazy is that MAGA was driving the narrative game. MAGA was driving it. We want transparency. That's sort of the stem of it. The right-wing influencers lost their goddamn minds and started, blaming Israel and everything else and calling Trump a pedo and all this stuff. And you lost all these, people are stupid. They lost their minds, right? So you're losing the narrative game for the week. So Trump has got to change it. Yes, it is to change the narrative. But that doesn't change the fact that they ran a coup and withheld information from the president deliberately so that he couldn't be informed. That's our country they're doing this to. Trump's not on the Epstein list. There is no Epstein list. The Epstein list is the distraction. I've already showed you that Rome did it back in the day. Historical empires do it all the time. They're using these scandals to distract you. The Epstein list is the distraction. If you're talking about the Epstein list, Trump can't govern. If Trump has to respond to the Epstein list, Trump can't govern. And if he can't govern, they're getting their way. Who's getting their way? The bankers. The British imperialist system. They're getting their way.
Against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who...
You get the point. She went on Fox last night and, blamed... Where's it at? I have it. You can see the picture of it right here. This one right here is the one... I don't care about the rest of the stuff. You can make up stuff. Lying is not a crime. However... smearing, defamation, maybe. That red circle right there, where the intelligence community changed the presidential daily brief so that he couldn't get proper information. If you go back a few, look at this. The real intel assessment, Russia and criminal actors did not impact the election. Basically, their intelligence said Russia had no effect on the election. They didn't mess with the election. However, they removed that part and didn't give it to the president. Do you see how this works? In fact, they lied to him and gave him opposite. Okay, so why? So that they would still be in control. They could frame him, kick him out, and overthrow the government. That's exactly the definition of treason. If you go back to the Judgment Act of 1823, treason was punishable by death. Then that came in, and they put it for life. I say we time travel, yes, all of these people back and put them in a public square, and they're hung. This is the way it used to be. This is the way it should be. And when you have proper deterrence, you don't get stupidity like this. You don't get treason. Notice how it worked. Once they did that, they had a secret Russia meeting where he told the director of the FBI and told the director of the intelligence community. And then they leaked it to the Washington Post and NBC News. And then they feed it to you. And you're sitting there saying, oh, Russia influenced our election. Russia, Russia, Russia. That's exactly how this works. That's it. It's proof the deep state's real. Right there. Hillary Clinton probably thought it all up. And her goal would have been to discredit Trump if he won and tie him up with probes. The Mueller investigation in 2019, like she said, cost $40 million and found zero collusion. Why did they find zero? Because it worked from those guys and Hillary right there. The denial of the presidential brief is absolutely insane. You can't do that. Straight up treason. Here's Steve Bannon talking about
elect. None of this when CNN, because the President Daily's brief is given to the president-elect. None of this when CNN reported they were going to ship the 73. We said, hang on. Right. Where did it come from?
Because Trump was
we called the chief of staff. This is why the meeting that took place, I'll explain this more later. This is why the meeting that took place on the 3rd to explain it, where they slipped in at the end the dossier in a brown paper envelope and gave it to BuzzFeed, Ben Smith and that team, I think, BuzzFeed that afternoon. That's where that all came from. They didn't do the president's daily briefing because they knew we got the president-elect gets the same briefing that the president of the United States in transition. Okay, they withheld it. This is how duplicitous they are. This is how guilty they are. Ben Rhodes, Obama, all of them are going to rot in a frickin' prison. And this is why we got to get on top of this. This is the deep state. This is the coup against Trump. You can see it all right there. Jack.
100%. Bannon seems to be the only one. There you go. Working on our camera trends. You can donate to my Patreon account. I might get better equipment if you do so. We also have a locals account. If you would like to see our video production go up quality. I did buy something for the wall right here. It's a nice 3-dimensional geopolitical map. Except it got stuck somewhere. Thank you, Amazon. No, seriously though. That's treason. Oh, but you're distracting from the Epstein list. Yes. Yes, because it should have been first anyway. Also, there is no Epstein list, you morons. There is no list. We said it the other day. If I write a name, watch this. We're going to write Bill. We did Clinton the other day. We're going to do Gates today. Watch this. Bill Gates. Here's the Epstein list. He's on it. Okay, now what? Now what? You don't think Bill Gates has an army of lawyers? You better have video of Bill Gates effing a little girl or a little boy underage. Then, on top of that, all he has to do, I'm not justifying it, but what I am going to tell you is all he has to do is say, oh, she's 18. That's it. Now what? You need to go get the witness, and she's like, no, I wasn't 18. Now it's a he said, she said. And you got Bill Gates with an army of lawyers. Well, you could prove it in court. You could try to prove it in court, but they're going to delay. They're going to sue for defamation and lie. You just open yourself up to millions and millions and millions of dollars, years of litigation. Then all of a sudden, it's going to take more than 3 years. Trump's out of office, and the case is dropped, and you wasted all the money. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's justified. But that's only if you have video of these people. And that's not even that's assuming that I just named you the 5 angel squad here. Comey, right? And then Christopher Wray, direct, and then John Brennan, and then all of these people, Biden included, didn't go damage the evidence or hide it in the first place. In fact, it would make more sense. It would make more sense if they framed Trump so that he wouldn't release it. They had all of the power to do it. They were in all of the positions of power. They controlled all of the FBI and the DOJ. They could have very easily fabricated evidence. Don't tell me that this has not been done before. Why can't he release it? Trump claimed it, that he could release it. And you had people like Dan Coe. What a goddamn moron. Dan Coe. Listen to Dan Coe. I can't stand Dan Coe, so we're going to make fun of him on this show. This is him last night on Abby Phillips' Newsnight.
I think Jack, especially, who looked like an absolute buffoon as a result of what Pam Bondi did with the binder that said Epstein Files Phase 1, when there wasn't anything new in there and he was selfieing it like it was some revelation, should be the one most enraged at this. And to your point earlier in the earlier segment, there were so many other parts of this where Donald Trump said it was a lie and then it was debunked. You know, Don Jr., for example, tweeted that this doesn't sound like my dad and that he never used the word enigma. And then immediately a video comes up of him calling Tucker Carlson an enigma, right? And then on top of that, after
someone was like, I asked AI if he'd ever used enigma.
And it's like, yeah, okay, that's a real zinger there. But on top of all that,
listen to this.
Only when he started to feel the pressure, all of a sudden he starts calling this the Epstein hoax, right?
But that goes against that. Okay, so he's arguing that, God, he's such a terrible arguer, debater, whatever you want to call it. He's arguing that if Trump feels pressure, he calls it a hoax. Yet Trump has every single hoax to have been proven true. So his argument is that you can't call Russiagate a hoax, is that you can't call the PP tape a hoax, you can't call January 6th a hoax, you can't call these things a hoax when you feel pressure. Okay, so that is a absolute terrible argument that can be destroyed because he's been proven to have many hoaxes proven true.
Which is not only insulting to all of the people who have supported him who've been trying to do this. I can't even imagine what it would be like if you were a family of a victim.
This is where he fails. He always goes, was it pathos? He goes to the emotional argument. Was it? I got to make sure those first pathos. Pathos, yes, emotion. I had it right. He only argues from the pathos, which is why you can tear it up with logic. Dan Coe, if you're listening.
Or victim yourself. And the president of the United States, whose job it is first and foremost to support the most vulnerable and protect them, is saying things like that. And I think we should all be embarrassed by a president who goes about it like that.
He's effectively arguing that Donald Trump is not taking care of the most vulnerable people of the Epstein list, the victims. Completely ignoring the fact that Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and James Comey were in possession of the Epstein list, and not a single Democrat, not a single pundit, not a single person on TV was blaming Biden for not catering to the victims. If you're going to argue the victims, then you have to argue the victims completely. You can't just start arguing victims when Trump's in there. The list doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist. There is no list. Trump absolutely made the perfect play. He let the pressure build. Everybody got a little riled up. He doesn't have to run for re-election, so you can do that, right? He doesn't have to run for re-election. You can lose voters. Why? Because it doesn't matter. You're not running for re-election. Then he moved it to the courts. He told Bondi to put the grant. So he has to balance. You've got to get justice for the victims, right? But you also have to balance. He has to show frustration, right? He has to show frustration, but he also has to get justice. He is frustrated. That's not too hard to do, right? John Solomon reported yesterday that Trump is the hunter now, right? So with the investigations targeting Comey and Brennan, right, for the wrongdoing in the Russiagate, the Democrat strategy is going to be now to rally their base around. He's an authoritarian, right? He's on the Epstein list. That's all they can argue. There is no Epstein list, but that's all they can argue at this point because it appears that he won't release it. So anybody that thinks through this is just knows that there's no list. There is no list. the legalities of releasing a list with 20 people on it or 10 people on it. What are you going to do? Just release the videos of them fucking little girls and boys? If there is any? No, it was destroyed. Because I just told you the 3 or 4 biggest criminals this government has ever seen that tried to commit a coup d'etat on President Trump before, almost a decade ago, were in power up until 6 months ago. Are you freaking kidding me? You think that the biggest criminals that committed the coup d'etat would not have changed evidence, would not have accidentally lost evidence? Come on, man. You see this right here? Falso in uno, falso in omnibus. It is a Latin legal maxim meaning false in one thing, false in everything. They lied about Russia. They're lying about everything else. This is Mark Elias. Mark Elias is the lawyer for John Brennan, James Comey, and he was effectively Biden's lawyer as well. Listen to what he tells you to do. This alone, on principle, should tell you that Trump is right.
We predicted, you and I and others, that we were going to get to this moment. And the question is, what do we do? And the question of what we do is multifaceted. The first question is, what do we do? Do we retreat and hide in the corner? So I'm on TV today, not hiding in the corner. I'm not retreating. I'm saying I'm going to stand up and fight. And
this is one of the biggest tool bags in politics.
Donald Trump won't intimidate me by going back to this 2016 stuff. And that's one thing. But the other thing we've talked about is, what do large institutions do? You know, what do civil society groups do? What does the media do? And I am imploring, like, honestly, I'm just imploring the media, do not report this as a
Don't report it, he says.
Legitimate investigation. Do not report this as they're opening a investigation into John Brennan. We will see where it goes. Report this as the misuse, the abuse, the authoritarian takeover of the Department of Justice.
There is a big game being played. He's effectively right there giving MSNBC and CNN tactical advice. The reason Abby Phillip did not talk about any of these investigations so far is because Mark Elias has advised them not to. Why? Because it keeps their base together? Because it doesn't give fuel to the narrative game, right? They are legit investigations. They are happening. They did commit treason. He is one of them. But the court of public opinion is a real thing. And he is protecting against that. He's straight squirming. These are criminals.
That should be the headline. The headline should be, in a misuse and abuse of the power of the executive branch, Donald Trump has asked his Department of Justice to open a bogus investigation into John Brennan.
The reason they know the tactics is because they did them on the opposite side. They were on the opposite side of the tactics, trying to get Trump into jail. Mark Elias is a huge part of pushing all of the investigations for all of Trump's lawfare. This is sort of one of the leaders of it. Andrew Weissman is the other one. These guys sort of led the way. And the reason they're squirming is because they're now not in control of the Justice Department and the FBI.
Right.
That's a problem for them. That is an absolute problem. Here is Joe Rogan and Mike Benz talking about, well, no, that's another one. Oh, I can show you this one. This is Obama. Everything he does is tactical. So the day before this gets released, look how awkward this is. This is so awkward.
Let me start saying very special. Someone near and dear.
This is the episode that everyone's been waiting for.
Because?
With bated breath. Because we have my brother-in-law, your husband,
my man,
the former president of the United States.
He made time in his busy schedule.
Watch how awkward this is. This is Michelle Michael Obama and her brother. But watch how they greet each other. Just watch the awkwardness.
I mean, he's just
come on,
so
IMO.
busy.
We are just so grateful. We have the former president of the United States. We are honored
to have Barack Obama join us.
Barack Obama, can you join us?
Remember, this is the day before the Tulsi Gabbard comes out and basically shows that he's treasonous, that they tried to subvert the presidency, withholding information and committing all of these treasonous acts. This is the day before.
Come
on out here, bro.
Welcome to IMO. Look at you.
Does that look like a husband-wife greet to you?
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really.
Okay, here comes the fake stuff.
Huh?
That's so
The
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
She took me back.
Now don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
It's so nice to have you both in the same room together.
I know, because when we aren't, folks divorced.
Let me tell you. First of
It's so awkward.
Well-
It's so bad. That guy, this guy, listen to what else he said. He's got to rally people around him somehow. Everything he does is tactical.
One of the things that I think a lot of times boys need is not just exposure to one guy.
One dad.
One dad. No matter how good the dad
is. He can't be
like
everything.
he can't be everything. And that boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
One of the most valuable things I learned as a guy
Listen to this.
was I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't out of line, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you...
Let me rephrase. Little boys need gay men around them. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. So then we go look at his head political advisor, his go-to right-hand man, who still gives him advisor, and look, who clearly doesn't want a full airing of the Epstein files. That alone should tell you. If David Axelrod is calling for the release of the Epstein files, then you know that they rigged something on the inside. If he's calling for it, look what else David Axelrod did. David Axelrod just posted something about Obamacare. He has to push Obama's narratives. There's a narrative game going on. There is an absolute deep state war going on. You have criminals that committed treason, that were in control of power, and they are trying to blame Trump and get away. They are trying to get away with their crimes. They are leaving breadcrumbs and misdirections and lying and this and this and this. How do I know? Because they've been doing it since 2016. They just don't have the power structures anymore, and Trump does. So you have to distract while also keeping people supportive of Obama. Got to talk about all of the good health care, and he's got to rally the gay troops, and he's got to say creepy, cringy things, and he's got to present himself around Michelle Obama. That's the first appearance that Michelle and Barack have had in, I can't tell you how long, 6 months maybe longer. It is the day before he gets conveniently accused of treason by the director of national intelligence. Do you not see the battle going on? Moving into midterms, the Republicans are going to rally around this. This is going to be their cry. They're the old news treason, the scandals. They're going to expose the deep state coup. And the Democrats are going to try to just call out authoritarianism. It's not, but that's what they're going to try to say. They're going to want accountability for the Epstein list. There isn't an Epstein list. So this is why they can scream it all day long. They're going to say that it's a weaponized justice system, as Mark Elias did, moving forward. You can see it across the board. It's going to go all the way up until November 2026. Republicans are going to push for indictments. Democrats are going to cry witch hunt. That's it. In the bigger picture, why this matters for midterms is the Russia hoax. It revives 2016, which is a little bit old. I wouldn't say that's the best play. But you've got to get the treason. Like, it is the best play, though, because the deep state is exposed. And they're going to use this to flip the House and get the purple seats. And Democrats are going to try to minimize the fallout by framing it as Trump's vengeance. And they're going to rally his base against authoritarianism. You can already see it sort of happening with Charlemagne the God, you can see how they're going to frame it. Listen.
Let's call it what it is. Paramount is looking for FCC approval for its Skydance merger. Trump can block that if he wants to. So canceling Colbert is an obvious move to appease Donald.
So he canceled Stephen Colbert on the Late Show, but they're going to just look for all things authoritarianism.
Trump, and I need to tell y'all something. If you don't think we are under a regime with an authoritarian strategy, then you are bugging. This is textbook authoritarian rule. Target your critic, centralize power in a few hands, intimidate through punishment or removal. And you know what that usually does? Shuts people the F up.
As it should. If you are pushing deep state propaganda, if you are propagandizing and lying, you need to be shut up. That's got to stop. The difference between the left and the right is that on the right, there is logic. There is logos, right? You can argue and justify all of it based on existing structures of reason. For example, immigration. You can deport everybody. It's real simple. You just deport everybody because 8 USC 1325 says anybody who enters the country illegally, right, needs to be deported. You have that on your side on the right. The right has logic and reason. The left has feelings and pathos. This is a first principle difference. This is what I run into the most online, people commenting. You can always tell people with logic and reason don't name call. They don't lose their cool because they have logic and reason. The people on the left will use feelings and pathos arguments. You should be doing this for the victims. My name's Dan Coe. Yo, that's how you feel, bro. That's not how it's playing out. You shouldn't do it for the victims. You should do it for the country and America, because you can't have one law for somebody and no laws for somebody else. It's the law. That's the logical, reasonable part. And if you follow the law and the logical and reasoning all the way to its conclusion, you end up taking care of the victims anyway. This is what they don't see. They get so excited for their feelings, right? They debate and push things with their feelings that they miss a lot of things, and we get way far out. Like Zorhan Mamdani talking about communism and socialism and AOC. Everybody should have free healthcare. No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Employers, through laws and regulations, should. Their policies are so bad because they ignore the policy part and they go with their feelings part. This is what I see online all the time. And so what ties this all together, right? The Russian hoax, the Obama-Clinton deep state strategy was to kneecap Trump from the beginning. And the probe that Tulsi Gabbard is now going to investigate on, that's the Republican counterpunch. That's the big play. The Democrats are going to downplay. They're going to distract with some fresh scandals. They're looking for the Epstein stuff. They're going to look for some other stuff. And around midterms, Republicans are going to hammer and expose the liars. They're going to fortify with defend the democracy and authoritarianism. And that's what it is. That's what it is. Let's go ahead and shift segments here. We're going to go to... I'm going to jump down to... Where's it at? NPR. No, we'll do Salazar. Salazar. Where's Salazar? All right. This is Maria Salazar. She is in charge of Florida's 27th district in Miami.
If you are undocumented and you have been in the country for more than 5 years, you do not have a criminal record. You're working and paying taxes. You can come out of the shadows with no fear and apply for the dignity status.
So she came out with something called the Dignity Act. She's Republican. And so she's basically saying you can try to get amnesty through this Dignity Act.
That means They will pay a fine of $7,000 over 7 years, buy their own health insurance with no access to any federal programs, and contribute 1% of their salary to the United States Treasury. That is $50 billion plus. Just do the math. In return, they will never be deported. They will be able to go home for Christmas or to go bury their mother and come back to the United States to continue working and paying taxes.
Okay, so why is she doing this? Why is she doing this? This is strategy. But if you go online, if you go in the comments, you're going to see everybody like, primary her, primary her, primary her. Okay, so question, why hasn't Trump called for the primary? Why hasn't he called for the, why? If she's pushing for amnesty and all of this stuff, why hasn't Trump said, no, we got to get you out and get somebody in that follows my agenda? Because this is Trump's agenda. Trump's agenda is winning, right? So think of it like this. Salazar is playing offense in her home field, on her home field. Florida 27, as we'll call it. That's a district that has 73% Latino and is packed with naturalized citizens from Cuba and Venezuela who flipped red when Trump ran, right? This bill that she's offering, it offers no full citizenship. It has a $7,000 fine over $7,000 fine over 7 years, plus border security like walls and asylum reforms. It is not blanket amnesty, right? No voting rights, no free pass. So why push it? Why push it? Reagan's 1986 amnesty legalized 2.7 million people, and it promised enforcement that never came. Migration tripled in the 90s, and Salazar knows that history. And she's framing this as dignity with enforcement to appeal to moderate voters without alienating the base. Only the stupid people fall for this, right? Here's the strategy. Florida 27 is up by 6 in the current polls, and it leans towards the Republican Party. But it could go the other way, right? It went blue by 6 points in 2018, and it flipped red just 2.8 in 2020. Don't tell me you haven't had new immigrants come in under the Biden administration all the way up until 2024. Miami-Dade County gained 124,000 people from international migrants from the last year. This is rough census data that says that. And so Salazar needs to lock in and turn legal Latinos who back security but hate family separations. That is a huge, specific tactic that she's doing. Polls will back this up. Right? A May 2025 survey shows 73% Latinos oppose mass deportations that tear families apart. And while Gallup's poll says 91% support pathways for long-term residents if they meet requirements. And in Florida specifically, only 17% back deporting under undocumented. That was on Newsweek. 56% favor citizenship paths. That was from the Associated Propaganda Press. So what is she doing? She actually did the same press conference in bilingual in Spanish. She said in Spanish too. And so people started flipping out in the Republican Party. And I was like, guys, you still have to play politics though, right? This bilingual outreach on the bill shows compassion. It boosts a turnout possibly. And it's in a 70% Spanish speaking district. Trust me, I say deport everybody. And I say English only. However, would like to see the Democrats get crushed and eliminated in every district. And so this is what she's doing. Now, how does Trump fit into this? Because this is what politicians do. I will promise you, I would bet my children's lives that Salazar called Trump before she did this press conference and said, hey, I'm about to come out and I'm going to say this. I support your agenda. I just want you to know this is a tactical play so that I could get more votes and win the district. Do you approve? Can you approve? And I promise you, Trump said, go for it. Doesn't hurt me. I don't have to run for re-election. This is not hard to see, right? In fact, Trump probably told her that I'm going to have to deny that I even support it. She was like, sure. Because who votes in that election? Who votes? Her constituents vote. Trump doesn't vote, right? Trump actually can now plausibly deny it, like a coach calling a play without taking the blame if the play doesn't work. Caroline Leavitt said the day before that the admin hasn't even reviewed the Dignity Act. Now, is she telling the truth? 100% no, because Salazar called her and said, hey, this is the Dignity Act. This is what I want to push. Can I push it to try to get votes? And he probably approved it. I will guarantee you that he approved it, because the very next day, Caroline Leavitt said, What did she say? I have it right here. Oh, they totally do not support it. They don't support the Dignity Act. So the first day said we have no idea. Second day announced full opposition. This is classic plausible deniability, right? It gives Salazar room to maneuver locally while Trump protects the national GOP brand. I'm telling you. The Democrats are going to call this bill hypocrisy to try to rally their base, right? They want those votes too, so they're going to try to piss everybody off there. They're going to push for narratives like Republicans talk tough but cave on amnesty, right? That's a pretty weak talking point. They're going to use media arms to hype family impacts, which you can already see. They're going to find some farmer who just trying to support his family, right? Appeal to the pathos. They only know how to argue with their feelings. This is why their arguments fall apart. Then this is why people like me are considered assholes to them, because I just pointed out with no feelings. Stephen Miller is the best at this. My idol. If it fails, they're going to claim that extremists blocked reform, right? Republicans are going to counter by exposing it as Republican in name only, rhino bait, with the primary threats to keep the base fired up. No amnesty, deport all is what you're going to hear online. But the smart ones, the smart political people, see the play, right? And they're going to use it to hold Florida 27, which is a huge city that we can't let go blue. This is why it's a smart play. You've got to hold on to that seat. Salazar's district is a test case for the Republican Party in Latino-heavy areas. They've got to, and better on this one than any other, is probably the highest percentage. If she holds this seat with her balanced approach, Republicans are now going to replicate it in different places like Texas or Arizona. This is literally a test case. You have to step back and look at this, where Latinos in Texas and Arizona are 40% of the voters. What's the Democrats' end goal? Is to take Texas. So we have to come up with a play that they're here. I was at a water spraying laser light show thing, Thursday night? They're playing Latino music, all Spanish. I'm like, what are we doing? Right? It doesn't matter. From a political standpoint, it doesn't matter what I feel should happen. It doesn't matter that I feel they should get all deported, only if they broke 8 USC 1325. If they came in legally, great. Add a little Spanish culture. Right? But you got to assimilate to American culture. That's my rules. It's not only my rules, that's the country's rules. You can't have a country if people don't assimilate. Don't bring your country. Live in ours. Right? That's how I am. But that doesn't matter how I feel. That's how I feel. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If we're going to win politics, if we're going to win elections, if Vance is going to take over and the whole country, you've got to win the little seats. You've got to win the districts before you can win, state Supreme Courts and then win nationally, right? You have to do this. You have to do this. It's an amnesty push. The amnesty push is deep state division tactics in action, right? That's what the Democrats are trying to push. They're trying to get a bunch of people that aren't here legally to be able to vote and be citizens here. And Salazar is trying to steal their votes before anything like that can happen. Because I promise you, if we don't win the next election, then a bunch of people are going to get some amnesty. They're going to pass some amnesty bills. Right? There's another scandal going on. The autopen scandal. But I want to talk about, before we talk about that, we're going to talk about NPR. NPR, right? Our taxes fund public broadcasting. And NPR is Sesame Street, local farmers, whatever. It's all these things. Very local stuff for your region, which sends money to local stations. Well, after it takes our money, goes to the government, right? Our money goes to the government. Right, and then our government money goes to the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, and then our money from there goes to local stations, and then from there goes to station fees. Right, and so Trump just passed a bill that defunds NPR and PBS, and this is the CEO. This is the CEO of NPR, Catherine Marr. Listen to what she has to say. Change the camera. Boom.
The accusation of bias. When it comes to the accusation of bias, I would start, as I always start by saying, which is we, of course, are a nonpartisan organization and we want to.
Okay. So if my tax dollars and your tax dollars, if it funds public viewing stuff, it should be down the middle. Because otherwise, you're catering to one side or catering to the other. You can affect people's thinking and affect people's votes and all the things. Let's just eliminate all that. What's the point of national public radio and public broadcasting service? It is to get information out that is neutral. Neutral, right? These are our tax dollars. This would be like me paying for Democrats. No, I just want everybody to get it equally. I'm not trying to pay for anybody, right? And so she says that.
Serve and are required to serve the entirety of the American public.
Okay, so the entirety of the American public. However, a few months prior, she said this.
You're a rabid progressive. And do you not think it's a problem that your political leanings...
So yesterday she said, we're not biased at all. A few months ago in a congressional hearing under oath, she said this.
Make it seem to the American people that you're not biased and you're not doing your job, because you agree that your job is to have journalistic integrity, right?
Absolutely, but there is a strong firewall between the newsroom and anything that I
Let's
do.
talk about the newsroom. You have 87 registered Democrats, not a single Republican in your editor board. So, I mean, how does that work to...
Well, she said she was unbiased, but there's 87 in zero? 87 in zero? 87 Democrats? 0 Republicans, but you're unbiased?
Give us the perception that you're doing your job of actually delivering unbiased information.
Well, I would agree with you that that number is a concern if it is accurate. I do believe that...
Of course it's accurate.
We need to have journalists who represent the full breadth of the American society so that we can report.
Okay, so her messaging is the same there. We feel like we should reach the entire society.
Work well for all Americans.
Well, I think that you are failing. I realize you've only been there for a year, but I just really think that while it is a small portion of your budget, you very much should expect to restructure your revenue streams, because I don't think that NPR is necessarily worth saving.
I agree. It is not worth saving. Hence, they cut it the other day. Here's Senator Kennedy from Louisiana talking about NPR.
I want to give you...
This is what your money funds. I thought it was supposed to go to, and even Heather said the other day, she said, well, why are we defunding NPR and PBS? That's a good thing, right? I'm like, no, we all pay for it. It's left wing. She's like, but it's public. No, listen. Look what happens when you give public funds to the Democrats.
A few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money.
Money that I funded, which means it should go to the American people, not towards some bullshit reason.
I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media savvy attorney. They love Michael Avenatti.
I love Senator Kennedy, but he pissed me off earlier this week. I'll show you after this.
You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR. Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music.
You see what they do? They just sneak in the left-wing propaganda. They sneak in this and that. It really is straight propaganda. It is, because it's free. And so they're trying to control your mind to get your vote. Listen to what Chuck Schumer had to say when they cut the money.
When parents see Republicans just axed educational programming, when people see Republicans just axe Sesame Street to pay for tax cuts to billionaires, when rural Americans see Republicans not just betrayed them and defunded public radio, sometimes the only source in rural areas so vital to natural disasters, and it's the only news source there, the consequences will be severe. Americans will remember. Democrats will ensure that.
Basically what he's saying is we're mad that you took away our free propaganda arm to try to get our voters. So not only are the Democrats' toxicity spreading throughout the public, the polls are absolutely devastating. Even CNN the other day admitted that the Democrat brand is as low as it's ever been in the history of them even checking for that. Not only that, but the Democrats are now losing the ability to sway minds and win minds via rhetoric in the free deep state propaganda arm. Right? I found a funny headline from the Babylon Bee the other day. Even when they've canceled Colbert, state-run propaganda program shut down. Right? They shut down Colbert, which was propaganda. They shut down NPR and PBS, which was propaganda. So they're losing on all fronts. They're losing on all fronts. They're losing on all fronts, and they are not happy about it. Right? Their strategy is going to be life or death, as Schumer said. Right? Claiming folks will die without safety nets, which he does right here.
That they don't forget.
Right. He said they die. They will die. Come on now. Fear-mongering, that's their tactic. Try to rally their base and protect their little echo chamber. Right? They're going to double down by framing cuts as attacking on the free press, as Charlemagne did by canceling Colbert. It's authoritarianism. This is their tactics. This is all they're going to say. They're going to try to blame Trump for distracting from the Epstein list. Don't fall for any of this stuff. It's a simple thing going on. You have the British imperialist system trying to stay in power because they've been in power since 1776. This is not hard to understand. They're going to use every tool at their disposal, including making up hoax, changing evidence, everything. Everything. I'm concerned because once they're caught, we already know. Okay, so these people will do anything. They're going to do anything. Right now, they're just playing the game. We don't have them in the dead corner yet. We have them it's like check in 3, right? We're talking chess on this show. It's like we have them. It's checkmate. Tulsi Gabbard checkmated them because now they have to play defense. If you don't play offense, you are going to get run over in this game. And Donald Trump, for a week and a half, piddled around with some piss-poor messaging, right? Piddled around with some piss-poor messaging. Piss-poor messaging in the Epstein list, right? He needed to message better. The White House needed to message better for a good week, for a week and a half. So much, it was so bad, right? It was so bad that it started to split up the party. Do you see how this works? If you don't have good messaging, if you don't have good rhetoric, if you don't have good policies, easy to defend policies, then you get attacked. What happened? Apparently, the Wall Street Journal had an article or had a letter that was hand-drawn by you. They had time to think shit up and get it out there. They're playing offense. The letter is offense. Now, it's a weak offense. It's a weak offense. But Trump, he has to show frustration in the Epstein stuff, and he has to try to convince people that justice has been done. This is tough, but it's absolutely genius when he shifts it back to the courts, because now it's in the courts. And how many people are talking about it? How many Democrats are claiming for it now? Release the Epstein list. He can't. It's in the courts. The grand jury testimony, it's going to get released. And there's going to be a whole lot of nothing because it doesn't even exist. It's just a tactic. It's a tactic to slow him down, trip him up, make him falter, rough up the voter base of the MAGA people, right? You got a bunch of people now mad at Trump that are not going to vote Trump again or Vance again, but that's okay. They just need to make sure it doesn't continue into Vance. The game of politics is being played right in front of you. If you ever get caught on an issue, it's because you fell victim, like Dan Coe did, to a pathos argument. It's all politics. It's always politics. It's always politics. Salazar isn't even pushing for amnesty. She doesn't give a shit. She just wants to win. If anything, she's probably been the best Republican of the week. She's the only one actually doing anything for her constituents. Everybody else is quiet or arguing, for Epstein, this and that, trying to deflect this and this. Politicians deflecting, not people. We are nobodies. We just can't fall for the bullshit. It's so easy to see. And it always ties back to the bankers. Always. Nobody's talking about banks. Nobody's talking about MI6, the intelligence service for the British. Nobody's talking about the Steele dossier connected to the British Empire. Nobody's talking about Fusion GPS connected to Steele, which is connected to the British Empire. Nobody's talking about any of that stuff. Why? Nobody writes about it. Why? Because it's true. They want to distract you from everything, and the Epstein list is not true. Yes, there were victims, but there is no list. It's just to trip Trump up and break up the voting base so the Democrats can steal some. Everything's about voters, either +1 or -1. Losing NPR, Democrats -1. Losing PBS, Democrats -2, right? Epstein splitting the MAGA base a little bit, Democrats +1, right? They're going to steal some of those voters. Salazar trying to get the moderate Latinos +5, right? Because there's a lot of those, right? And if it works, then we multiply that strategy into the other districts. Thanks for talking politics on a Saturday. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Give us a follow on X. Give us a follow on X. Here we are. Are we still live? Yeah, I guess so. Who knows if it got cut out today, right? We're a low budget show, but give us a follow so we can become a high budget show. Give us a follow on X, like I said. Give us a comment on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, or Spotify. Like I said, thanks for playing. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. This has been 4D Chess. Have a wonderful Saturday, people.